First creation and fall of man, education of Mary and Liz and Zoan, the unity of life, Elihu's lesson, death is a ministry, in Manetho's lesson. After the feast we build with carpenter's tools on the life of Yahshua in the Muslim schools, until Lamas explained the meaning of truth. Yahshua reveals sinful ways when they stray from rules. At the feast in Bahar taught equality, and that between Allah and man is unity. Like Yahshua and Barad, we read scrolls sacred, using eternal happiness to clothe the naked. In Egypt, among Gentiles, tremendous works defeat the three temptations to examine your worth. Washing your hands, can't clean palm and dirt. Lying disciples didn't steal the body and spurn. I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood died. Even in India, I appeared to Eastern sages, came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren, just as thusly broke from the monks Tibetan. As the Aquarian Gospels, I learned those lessons with a moral spirit spilling as the circle 7. Holy instructions and warnings to all young men. Marriage instructions, even duties of a husband. Holy instructions for children toward their mom and father's obedience. Holy covenant of nations Asiatic. Holy unity of rich and poor is in the attic. Master servant duty shall become a pleasure. Social duties by the prophet, Allah's treasure. Justice, charity, gratitude, sincere religion. Know thyself, inhale the breath of heaven. Spark the soul of man, reach the wisdom pinnacle. The instability of man is no miracle. In constant weakness, cause knowledge is insufficient. Lower self has the higher self in submission. Inconstancy and weakness, it caused misery. Origin of Asiatic, start of Christianity. After we left the capital and fulfill prophecy. Fallen sons of daughters, no hate, start loving me, your prophet. Without a rocket, meet you on the soul plane. Higher than Siphon, 7 lines of cocaine. You won't have to do that to hear me speak. Open your heart to the Most High, bump into a sheep. Fez might be red, black, or blue. He might teach you about Bohemian Grove or Olokun. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood died. Even in India, I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren, just as thusly broke from the monks Tibetan. As the Aquarian Gospels, I learned those lessons with a moral spirit spilling as the circle 7. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood died. Even in India, I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren, just as thusly broke from the monks Tibetan. As the Aquarian Gospels, I learned those lessons with a moral spirit spilling as the circle 7. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI too. How come you don't know about Drew? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about Drew? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about Drew? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about Drew? Elijah Poupé is the Moorish national. Elijah Muhammad is the straw man shadow. York after Malachi is owned by the British. Sadat El is on the blue waiting for the idiots. Master of gods is Nuwapian's birthright. Teach from Nuwapian Morse paper they want to fight. 777 is the universal flag. I rep that. And Clarence 13X is my dad. Ali came first to save the mindless masses. Went from Moorish conventions to conscious classes. Went from feathers to koofies to baseball hats. Went from Rasta to Moorish. Replace outside. Replace the RDP banner with a Moroccan flag. Replace Ross with sheep. Blast get toe tag. Till I see triple crown is a fez with no tassel. Showing temple cards as ID with no hassle. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI too. How come you don't know about Drew? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about Drew? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about Drew? As the warlocks of rap sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Illuminate rapper masons, rhyming more science, hip-hop renaissance, reverse Earth's global climate. Out the dark ages, many pages get burned without the chance to flip, be read or turn. No learning, blacks enslaved by the vermin. The Moors victim to Inquisition is purging. The government violating the covenant of contract. Hip-hop general Iron Sheik, no squad the bomb track. Moors branded like Louisville slugger bats with a name not theirs, void ab initio contract. Most don't get it, cause they don't study the law. When they come from the galaxy behind the furthest star to fight legal battles, they high in the bar. You obtains lead cause you abandoned your rights thus far. Told you on Iron Sheik 2, no need to represent. Just study the prophet and what he presents. Most don't stand for what he defends. Most elders over their mouth, they need the pens. Higher self ascends, lower he descends. Conscious without a nation means he pretends. She pretends, which means we pretend. Pick up abandoned birthrights and the healing begins. Build on pillars strong like 7 North-alleged twins. Iron Sheik 100%, most are partly skilled. Ask the Barbie and the NOI too. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your brethren, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? All Moors are active, never passive. All Moors are active, never passive. Before I nationalized in 2007, I used to wonder why Moors talk like a reverend. God drew our need like a religious idol, and that I have to listen to them cause they're the station or title. Moorish pastors active, Moors actors. God drew like a parrot and they're the parrots. On the shoulder, repeating everything, never doing. Constantly trying to stagnate the movement. Drew said new Moors will come with eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, not the kind hoping. Move up from belief to faith into fruition. Couldn't answer my question, but you want me to listen. When I mention HL, on top to be paid, they dissing. Saying Moors are on a suicidal mission. Moors told me I get locked up, don't follow Taj. The sheriffs have authority with a 6-point badge. Don't follow nature, babe, he's not a Moor. But when I watch his classes, he's saying much more. When I mention Dawid Ali El in Mecca, if words could injure, that Moor would be on a stretcher. When I mention Elihu, they say he lied too. But they always say Circle 7 is the most Bible. They engage me, so I say they do. Didn't want me to be on the lessons that I drew.
Same people would sit around and say, you know, these crackers stole everything. These crackers don't have nothing if it wasn't for us. But then we'll sit right around and turn around and say that we are taking from them, from Tim, from Tim, from Tim, from Tim, from Tim, from Tim, from Tim.
Passives get mad when I call them out, asking where's the unity when I call them out. My union is to the prophet and a lot of sentiment. Not the temple more sheep wanting my attention, begging me to follow UCC1 on the straw to get me under contract when I wasn't before. They don't even care about void ab initio. Still saying the African Moors, the Scipio Africanus. Prophet saved us since Pan-American Conference and all the passive nonsense. This is not the Islam pushing bomb-fed carts. True Moors are part selling part.
We are the original Masons, okay? Not the European. Yes, they did take it and conquer the world, okay? But that's not theirs. Masonry does not belong to the Europeans. Europeans.
In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all. Join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality. For you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all. join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality. For you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. Learn your foreparents' ancient divine creed. Since 1913 I've been planting the seeds. Enemies planted, agents, I had to leave. I know it was abrupt, but bear with me please. Among the many teaching man have two selves. These are lower and higher. You want the one that justice breeds. Uplifting the Moors. Be yourself is what you need. Ancient forefather didn't salad on their knees. Not even under his own vine and fig trees. Fell to slavery for abandoning divine creeds. They nationalized since 1774. Now you hurt others with hands, tongues, and thoughts. Confused at the roads when you see them cross. The object of More's life is to unfold a force. Islam doesn't teach we were born in sin. If unlimited capacities can be found within, humanity has been left at the mercy of those who in them have no mercy. If only Allah God's the Moorish movement, the faith in your prophet, please don't lose it. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all, join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality, for you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all, join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality, for you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. Coming as he did with a national message, many disrespect and don't get the lessons. Following the speakers, not the words spoken. Connect to the higher powers or the wires broken. This is our prophet, and there's none left. False prophets point followers to the joys of death. Circle 7 says Jesus, but means Ben Yosef. Where you find Allah, we know the heart is closest. To find a real prophet in these days is rare. Most propagate a faith to have the people in fear. Together we stand, divided we fall. Prophet said, study the Constitution, cause law is all divine and national principle specific. His call to all loyal and faithful Moors is specific. Most made our prophet suffer severely in the past, waving banners with the claims of a national flag. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all, join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality, for you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all, join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality, for you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. If you have race pride and love your race, join the MST and you must make haste. If Europeans help, then why not you? I'm your prophet. Who you think I came here to? Redeem from the slavery state that's mental. Get off your 4 legs and out the kennel. This field is open to strong men and women, willing and seeking the kingdom of heaven. Lack of sincerity is in the churches. Lack of truth makes all religions worthless. I took a red pill and blue pill to know the ledge. Tree of life ciphers dance in my head like sugar plums. If you're sick, lime and a shot of rum. New wine and old skins will have you wasting some. Tried for many years, they still blind and dumb. Standing on the corner pushing crack and crime and guns. Hanging at high noon. A star called sun, bleaching the sellouts' bones dry, and they asking why. Schemers walk and traders grit all the time. On the high road, I watch them fall for the last time. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all, join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality, for you are not Negroes or what you claim to be. In the name of Allah and Ali, Islam to all, join the MST. You should hear about birthrights and nationality, for you are not Negroes or what you claim to be.
Remember the last meeting? I was speaking about religious freedom. I was speaking about how if America said mass vaccination for smallpox, how we could say we don't want to get it under religious freedom. Right after that, then the president announced mass smallpox and vaccination, everything. So it's just showing you we got to stay in tune with the time. The prophet also said, quote, prophecy number 57, he said, quote, watch the newspapers and listen to the radio. I am going to make the European tell the truth. So we say in the last days, listen carefully. What you hear in the newspapers, what you see in the news. He said he's going to make them tell the truth at that time. And if you listen carefully, you can distinguish the truth from what they're saying.
I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I'm going at 30 rappers lynching 30 more too. Hiding literature that Drew wrote to warn you. They claim to make you Muslim and make you sovereign. The paperwork and filings is fiat erotic. They don't care about his words, throw it out like garbage or throw it at you. When you're active, not passive. When they want to talk about like off a trampoline mattress, treat them like a vamp or a teen actress. Get stamped with the brand like a mean savage. This inquisition's divine, all others average. Millennium Renaissance, heroes in our classes. Fed up with this art control and fascists. Ask if they heard about Moors, they say no. But Masons, they obviously know. About the handshakes and rituals with skull and bones. They even know about Owl's murder in Bohemian Grove. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. Dirty Moors killed Drew. I read the FBI papers. I'm loyal Moors, emergency fund rapers. Moorish literature and divine valor changes. Might as well say Drew Ali was born in a manger. Got to push boys aside and his food smelled danger. Got me treating every Moor like a stranger. Grand shit one kid stumbling drunk in the fed. What was proclaimed for every meeting was not read. Some more than so active prophet can't be dead. Thanks Moorish teachers away, I can't be led. Actions speak that I consider what's said. And what's said was study, then study yourself. Honest to the prophet over Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. Everybody wants to be just like Drew Ali. Nobody wants to care about Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. Islam, Moors, peace and love. Peace and love. Happy holy day to all the Moors, all the Muslims, everywhere that they're at. We want to say, give thanks to Allah for sending us a prophet, because you know everybody needs an example to follow in order to be right out here. And we notice that there's a lot of examples out here that are not right, far from right. So, you know, we're going to do a little bit of Drew Ali today, get him on the map, get him in the minds of the people once again, because it appears that, you know, his time is always going to be the time, because nationality is always going to be the order of the day. Islam, more. Islam. I know you had
Islam, Green Sheet.
Peace, more. I know you had you uploaded something today. I just want to touch on that before we go in. I saw you uploaded some Jordan Maxwell. You uploaded some Jordan Maxwell. Some Jordan Maxwell.
Jordan Maxwell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, going in on that, I had seen, you know, of course, you're just extending off of your video, you know, because of the dogma being spread by the so-called Hebrew Israelite,
right,
or whatever. So what I did was I said I already knew that Jordan Maxwell, he got a couple of videos of him going over the Jewish and the Hebrew and the Israelite terminology, like going over those terms.
right.
And this, you know, because our people's attention span ain't long, so I was like, well, this is a good short one right here, good 2-3 minute one, with him straight to the point, going, like, letting them know, like, Israel never even existed. There's no such thing as Israel. Catholic Church made it up. Then gave you the name of the book. It's called what is it? Beneath the Bible or something like that. Burying of the I forgot. But in that video, he goes in on the name of the reference of the book, and then I had went and found some videos of the author going in on the book, and it's crazy. The archaeological evidence, people doing research on historical events that the Bible said that's happened. They go to those areas, do research and stuff, and it's a total oxymoron or contradiction to what the Bible is saying, to what evidence is showing. So a lot of their illusionary stories that they think is really real is what's given this whole mythology illusion. It's causing confusion. It's causing it, and also again doing more research. The whole Hebrew Israelite thing that's going on now. Once I started seeing like in the 80s and 90s, like when they first started their early movement. I'm not saying they started off in the 80s and 90s. I'm saying like when you do some research going back the last 30 years on what they were doing, they weren't acting the way they acting now. They were on some more of, the chosen people speak Hebrew and stuff like that. They weren't really on, the Edomite and all of that stuff now, and Hebrew Israelite as a nationality. That's all this stuff that they talking about now. They weren't doing that. When you do research in the 90s, 80s, they weren't promoting that. None of that. None of that. That's all this stuff coming up now that they started. Just like, and then we're going to go back to it, but what I started noticing was all of the groups seen, what they saw was this nationality thing, that they can add that on to their sects, but not really speak of it, of a nationality. Make it closer to membership, but make in the guise of nationality. And that's what I started noticing too.
Right.
Like it was going crazy. I was like, oh my goodness, this, spending about 10 hours of studying since this morning. I'm like, oh, okay. The rabbit hole, oh, okay. They worked their way up to this. It didn't just start off of Hebrew Israelite as a nationality. That's brand new. That started last year. Last year. That wasn't their teachings and nothing like that. But because even Jordan Maxwell, when he speaks in the video, he's saying religion. Yeah. When you hear any videos or any teachings of Hebrew Israelite or anything from the 90s and back, it was religion. It's not no nationality. So for them to try to tie into that or try to make Moors tie us into religion factors, that's false.
Exactly. Islam. And along with that, there's an article out there by the name of Hat Tricks, the Fez and the Turban in Africana Religions. And they have an excerpt here. Well, we'll take an excerpt from the article. Less well known are the ways that headwear has historically, before we do that, let's just get this intro part in. We aren't sure whether it was Shakespeare or Mark Twain who coined the phrase, "the clothes make the man." But it is true that clothing makes an obvious declaration of one's status. Less well known are the ways that headwear has historically served vital purposes in cultivating racial effect for Black American male religious leaders and teachers. Take the fez, for example, a dress accoutrement originally associated with fraternal orders. Although it typified a costume vogue in lodges and secret societies during the early 20th century, eventually the fez would be visibly linked to Black Islam. An accessory worn by dark-skinned people as a sign of nobility, its geometrically conical shape was said to resemble an unfinished pyramid, the signifying mystical figure of Freemasonry. So Black Muslims gloss the fez in a saying that goes, as a pyramid houses wisdom, so the fez houses wisdom of the brain. Seen here, Noble Drew Ali, founder of the Moorish Science Temple, wore a fez in accordance with his own interpretations of Islamic theology, which integrated the ideas from Freemasonry, New Thought, and Hermeticism. Dressing the head in alignment with their values and beliefs appealed to Black men who found meaning in racialized understandings of religion promoted by leaders like Noble Drew Ali. Hats became powerful emblems for male religions during the period of the Great Migration, when millions of Black Americans from the southern states, as well as Africans, Caribbean immigrants, and others, entered the cities of the North and Midwest and discovered alternatives to the theological and social norms of Protestant Christianity. In so doing, they asserted declarations of selfhood and citizenship that repudiated conventional racial classifications. They professed identities that challenged the denigration of their bodies and souls. They adopted mythologies that they believed revealed their true divinely established origins, and they declared themselves to be Moors instead of Blacks, Muslims instead of Negroes, instead of Hebrews and Hindus, instead of coloreds and niggers, no longer bereft of God's favor, without claim to history or spiritual lineage. Now, we just want to go back and stress the point that this powerful emblem of a headwear, the powerful emblem of a headwear being a statement of your status, was something all across the board during the Great Migration. It wasn't just limited to people who call themselves Moorish Americans only. Again, in doing so, which is adopting the headwear, in doing so, they asserted declarations of selfhood and citizenship that repudiated conventional racial classifications. They professed identities that challenged the denigration of their bodies and souls. They adopted mythologies that they believed revealed their true, divinely established origins, and they declared themselves to be Moors instead of Blacks, Muslims instead of Negroes, Hebrews and Hindus instead of coloreds and niggers, no longer bereft of God's favor, without claim to a history or spiritual lineage. Later, as leader of the largest African American Muslim organization in the United States, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad carried the tradition of fashioning the head with the fez as a signature style. When worn by the Prophet, the hat displays regal power and prestige and authorizes prosperity for the entire community. Such themes would translate broadly into the ideologies of economic self-determination for which the Nation of Islam is well known. Much like the fez, the turban became an inspiration for Black men who sought access to sacred truths while reimagining their religious associations within the global community. In contrast with the fez, the turban was associated with the dress of adepts of initiatory religions like Theosophy, occult science, or in the case of Rabbi Arnold Ford, a prominent linguist, poet, and musician for the UNIA, African American Judaism, and its contemporary strains in the Black Israelite and Hebrew traditions. The turn of the turban draws our attention to the profound theological conduits by which Africana mystics affirmed transnational identities, be they Moorish, Ethiopian, or Egyptian. To be sure, this kind of synthesis was a feature of Black religious pluralism in the early 20th century. Turbans also became more visible as Americans looked to Eastern-inspired sacred traditions for new avenues of cultural consumption. You can get the rest of the article. Hat tricks, the fez, and the turban in Africana religions. Hence why today we call this why all the whoever's that aren't Moors need Noble Drew Ali. Why they need him. Because what he did, one of the most important things that he did was bring back to Moors this idea of their cultural, national customs as far as their attire. Namely, the fez and the turban, where all through Noble Drew Ali's literature, he's telling the sisters or the mothers, wear your turban, wear your fez, be yourself, and whatever else that Noble Drew Ali told the Moors. So we want to give honors to the Prophet for having the insight to express to us the truth about not just our nationality and our birthrights, but everything that goes with it, in order for us to have this national force that we do have, that only Moors know about, because, you know, majority of people, they think that this is some religious whatever. They get caught up in the propaganda and the hoopla. They get caught up in everybody who's not Moors talking about Moors. And if they do hear what Moors are saying, it's usually some dirty Moors they're listening to. Just like I see the same indigenous guy, Curame or whatever, doing some thing about the Moabites or whatever, and he's using Lord Abba as a reference to talk about these Moors and all this type of stuff. The Moors are teaching wrong. Obviously, the Moors are teaching wrong if you're using a dirty Moor as a reference. How come you guys don't go to Grand Sheik Nature, El Bay's videos, and his books when you want to refer to Moors? How come you don't go to Taj Street Bay? How come you don't go to the Mothers? How come you don't use RV Bay publications when you're quoting Moors? Like always quoting, always stay quoting dirty Moors, trying to make it look like they represent all Moors. They don't represent all Moors. Islam more.
Islam. I was just throwing in there Abdullah. They'll never want to bring up Abdullah's book. He got plenty of books. They're gonna get Lord Abba. Really?
Lord Abba. That's who they're using. All right. So we're gonna put out some, you know, there's probably a couple authors who aren't Moors as far as, you know, they proclaim their nationality or whatever, but they had some interesting things to say relative to Moors. And of course we got, you know, the Moors who put out some stuff. So we're gonna start with oh yeah, then also go look up this article too. A New Jersey high priest of a black separatist hate group admits evading taxes after using church donations. That's the Hebrew Israelite guys. Hebrew Israelite head guy taking the church donations. Now, from what I know, if they're Judaic, they don't have churches, they have synagogues. So it should let you know something. If they're stealing church donations, Hebrew Israelites, these individuals who you claim are your high priests. So we already know who these priests are. The same priests who, when Yahshua went to their stuff, he was turning over their tables or whatever because they're sacrificing stuff and they're selling people's birthright. All right. So our first stop today, Exhuming of a Nation by Elijah Pleasant Bay. And we're starting early in his book. You see, his book is pretty colossal. We're starting early. Page 6. What is a sheik? I shall prepare a table before you in the presence of thy enemy. It was upon this prophecy, El-Haj Sharif Abdul Ali, standing as Drew Ali, began his duties as a prophet in the United States of America. Under the USA First Amendment's freedom of religion, the Holy Prophet found the first Islamic religious institution in the history of North America. Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America, a mostly religious organization with the power to appoint and consecrate his missionaries. In accordance with Islamic traditions, Drew Ali named the stations of his organization members, sheiks, and adepts. These progressive titles reflect both the customs of their ancient forefathers and sincerity to climb from the shallow grave of USA slavery through knowledge of self into the graduate degree of being a Moorish American. The latter is the ultimate duty of a prophet when producing an independent, clean, and pure nation of people. In line with the propagating of the faith, the MSTA was designed as a Sunday school of higher learning, where his people would learn how to be themselves, Moorish Americans, and extend the learning and truth of the great prophet of Ali in America. However, this original teaching business was instantly diminished after Drew Ali passed his flesh. With this demise also went the national definition of the title sheik, and members inverted and confined its meaning to the surreptitious infrastructure of the MSTA. As a sad state of affairs to this day, most MSTA members know as much about being a sheik as proclaiming themselves a pure nation by bearing their own free national name. Today's MSTA members believe a sheik is made and confined to membership of their especial branch or chapter. His or her worthiness and strength cannot extend beyond the recognition of their especial group and never relates to the overtures of free national standards. These are not credible sheiks, but merely membership sheiks, practicing in a cult world in a fashion pleasing only to themselves. Now, a real sheik is a patriot, a leader, and an authorized diplomatic representative of a recognized nation of people. A sheik draws his power from his country, descent, or nation, and can move multitudes of his faithful citizens at will. The title sheik is an official attribute appointed to an outstanding national of an accepted government. A sheik under Islamic laws can be a grand governor, Islamic ruler, head of a nation, tribe, or family of people bearing the same free national name. Now, you saw the indigenous guys call themselves grand sheik and noble and all that stuff, right?
Right.
And then they claimed that their country is America. Now, everybody including the deaf, dumb, and blind people, the mentally disabled people, know that America is a continent, not a country. So for individuals who to call themselves sheiks and nobles, but then claim that their country is really a continent and their nationality comes from a continent, not from a nation, lets you know the fakery that they're espousing when they come on these platforms pretending to be somebody and claiming that they're teaching somebody something, right? A sheik draws his power from his country, descent, or nation. A sheik draws his power from his country. So Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, he was drawing his power from his Moorish nation that he was part of. And again, like we said in the beginning, everybody knows that under the First Amendment, freedom of religion, the Holy Prophet found the first Islamic religious institution in the history of North America. He founded the first one. And everybody knows this. Why does he not get his honors? Because the charlatans want you to think that they're the prophet. The charlatans want you to think that they're the sheiks. The charlatans want you to think that they're the diplomatic representatives of whatever nation they made up yesterday. When they can't be, because there's already that. And his name is Noble Drew Ali.
Yep.
And it's imperative that he gets his honors, not just from Moors, because Moors already honor him, whether they're dirty, passive, whatever, they give honors to their prophet, Noble Drew Ali. It's all these other people who are pulling names out of the sky and claiming that they're some type of authority. Some people even self-proclaiming that they're chiefs of some tribe when they don't even have freaking a pot to piss in, but they're a chief of some tribe, right? The only way that our people are going to be saved, the only way that they're going to be held to that that spiritual divine connection to whatever God it is that they claim and whatever, is if they give honors to the prophet who said that we recognize all true and divine prophets. So don't think that this is limited just to him, and because we say Noble Drew Ali, we're worshiping some man and all that stuff, because if that's the case, then we also worship Buddha, we also worship Muhammad, Jesus, Confucius, Quetzalcoatl, whoever else that anybody says is a prophet that brought them the connection to their culture, to their creed, to whatever, we give them honors too, we worship them too. We know this is not about worship. We know that this is about honor and respect and prestige. This is about keeping the pristineness of what was brought from whatever we consider the Most High to this earth plane to us. And many people have dropped the ball. That's why Noble Drew Ali only give honors to 5 of them. Some other ones, you're going to go research and find out who those prophets are, right? We know about the 16 crucified saviors that are on record, that everybody knows, they got books about them and all that. And more than likely, there's ones that we never even heard about. But all those prophets have a frequency. And all those prophets' frequency were sent to us in North America under the lessons, under the divine preparedness of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam war.
Islam. No, we were just you going in, Green Sheep. You going in. I'm listening to class. Going in.
Islam.
You did mention the fact about you know, because when you mentioned the part where the sheep is only a sheep because of his country, like your country gotta say, you know, your people, your nation, your consanguinity, the people gotta say or recognize you as someone as a sheep, you know. And I say that to say, like, we don't even, this guy that we were talking about, the indigenous guy who was just chief such and such the other day.
Yeah.
We haven't even, now he's a sheep, but I don't even know what he looks like. We haven't even seen him.
We don't know what these people look like.
How is the people, the nation, your country, gonna make you a sheep if we never even seen you? We've never even seen you.
Shit, they probably never even seen them. Much less us.
That's the craziest thing. And that's the other thing. The only reason why he's saying he's sheep now is because we corrected him.
Yeah.
We proved to him that chief wasn't an indigenous title.
Right.
So he was like, "Oh yeah, now I'm a sheep." No, you're a dummy. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, and then you go look up dummy in Black Fall Dictionary because it don't mean what you think it means. Like, this is what we're dealing with right now.
Yep. Right, and again.
In America.
Go ahead, Mark. No, go ahead.
Okay, because they say in America is a country where everybody, like you said, everybody knows it's a continent. Because I'm just totally confused because when we ask them like their nationality and they say they're American, and then like they know for a fact like your ancestors didn't call themselves American.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an ancient word. Your forefathers and foremothers never even heard of the word American. Never even heard of it. Never even heard of it. And you're saying you're that. I don't even care if it's a country. If you're gonna say it's a country, your ancestors never even heard of it. Your ancestors never even heard of it. So how could you be that? Now, like that's amazing to me. How could it be something that your grandmother never even heard of it, but now you that? Yeah. That's what you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It bugs me out. America is not Choctaw language. America is not Blackfoot language. America is not Cherokee language. It's not none of that. None of that. Because then if they're going to do what Frank Joseph mentioned in the Lost Colonies of Ancient America, when he says, when he breaks it down from America comes from Amarak, with the Phoenicians' name,
yeah.
for the star that they was following. Now, the reason why they can't connect themselves to that is because you're saying you Indian. You're not a Moor. You're saying you're not a Moor, so you can't tie yourself to that part of the history.
Right.
So you have to keep tying tie yourself to Amerigo Vespucci. Because there's no Indian tribe that said that they were Americans, because there's no such thing as an American tribe. I've never heard of American tribe. You ever heard of American tribe?
Never.
I've never heard of that. Never. And you know that they just made up American Indian. They just made that up.
Yeah. That's definitely not ancient. Yeah, that's definitely not ancient.
So they're killing themselves with that. Oh, we're American. Brother, that's last week.
Yep.
That's last week. even when Columbus came, Columbus didn't even call it America. You know what I mean? That came later. Columbus, Cortez, never even heard of it. Never. None of them. Never even heard of it. These guys are calling themselves American.
And that's the disservice. The disservice is these individuals that are attempting, right? They're attempting, feeble attempts, mind you, to try to make a name for themselves when you already have a name for yourself. You don't have to go pretend to be something. Just be what Noble Drew Ali told us that we are. Tie yourself to the nation. Tie yourself to a culture that existed long before, even when you go to the Negro Fort, which was Aboriginal and Indigenous fort, but it was Negro. It was called Negro Fort, but it was Aboriginal and Indigenous. Even they had a red flag. Why do they have a red flag for on the Negro Fort? How come when they destroyed the Negro Fort, they say we're going to take down the red flag of the Negro Fort? Why? You think they didn't have any connection to Moorish culture? You think they just put a red T-shirt up there, call that a flag? They had some type of connection. And again, it's a common theme that the so-called Indians were classified as Negroes. If the Indians were classified as Negroes, then that would mean that the Indians were dark-skinned people. And if blackamoor means any dark-skinned person, especially an African Negro, then that would mean that the so-called Indians are Moors. It's not rocket science. Everyone needs to tie themselves to what Noble Drew Ali presented if they want some salvation out here. Moors can speak about it. Moore went to the tribunal today. Colin is talking about, I'm Canadian, so I have jurisdiction. No, you're not. You're not Canadian. Canada's a corporation. 0000230098. United States Security and Exchange Commission. Go check. Oh, really? I think I have to go research that. Yeah, you better go research that, Magi guy, because you're not Canadian. You're European. And this is our land. We're the Aboriginal and Indigenous people, Moors. Europeans, colonists. Everybody else, Moors. It's real simple. Go to India. Oh, we're not Indian, we're Hindustani. Oh, you go to Hindustani, they got Mauryan dynasty over there, which is Moors. Oh, Filipino. Oh, we're not Filipino, we're Moro. You go over there, it's the Moros who are fighting for the land over there because it's their land. Treaties with the Hawaiians and the Washita. Just go get Ali Melbay's book, First World Order. The letter's in there that they have relations. Why would the Hawaiians have a treaty with the Washita? How come they didn't have it with the Cherokee or the Chippewa or the Algonquin or the Iroquois or whoever? Why would the Hawaiians do a treaty with the Washita? Because the Washita is the oldest indigenous people on the planet. And we already know that the Washita call themselves Moors. But again, if we leave it up to the dummies, just like the Hebrew Israelite guy was talking about, history repeats itself. Well, you don't want to repeat yourself being a dumbass. How about get yourself in a correct, proper standing so when it repeats itself, at least the children have something. Why you want history to repeat itself in the state that it's in now? It doesn't make any sense. Because this is not, what we're seeing now is not history, not the past repeating itself, because the past we were rulers, now we're niggers. So obviously this is not a repeat. This is a reset, which is why there's a reset. This is why everything's retro. This is why every Michael Jordan shoe that we had in high school came back out again. Every Patrick Ewing, every Fila, They even got MCM coming out again. You're going to see Troop come back out again. Why is Troop coming out in 2019? You're going to see Carl Kanai come back out again. Guest Jeans and all that stuff. What Farmer Jeans coming back out again? Why is that coming back out again? There are people like Anonymous who he got Guest Jeans from the 90s, still got those today. People think that's new. He got Cassell's on it. Wow, where do you get those? Where I get these? I had these in high school. What do you mean get these? What are you talking about? Because it's retro right now. It's recycle age right now. This is not history repeating itself. There was no vaccination program and stuff like that in ancient times, like what we're seeing going on right now. It's not history repeating itself. This is plantation repeating itself. This is European psychology repeating itself. This has nothing to do with the ancient customs. We strayed from that. And again, that's why Noble Drew Ali came back. Because remember, he's the prophets of old here again. To tell us again, to turn over the tables of the money changers again. Bring these people back their culture and their religion again, because they lost it again, because they were chasing after their lower self, which is the devil. He's not some under the ground guy with a pitchfork. He's not the white man. The European's not the devil. He's just a European. He doesn't have no devil powers. You guys giving him all that power. He's the devil. And then want to know how come they're using it? Maybe because you gave them that power, lying, instead of just being honest.
That's what they doing.
Calling some European the devil, giving him powers that he don't even know how to use. And then when he misused the power, make a missile and blow up half the planet or whatever, you're going to blame them. Yeah, we blaming them. Your dumbass is the one that called them devil. Call them troglodyte, you wouldn't have no problems. Call them British, French, German, Dutch, you call them who they are, you wouldn't have no issues. But nah, you want to call them white man. You call them God power, call them devil power, and then you're complaining about they did something. Islam more.
Islam. Nailed it right on the head with the, as soon as you give them the power, the jurisdiction, and you already know they do it all the time. They call them officer, they call them mayor, the governor, the government. They misuse it all the time and give the colonists the power. You know, in the state, I'm from Georgia, giving them the power. Giving them the power. Right in your language.
My license, my passport, give them the power. My social, give them the power.
Yep, every time.
My job.
Every time. Yep. That reminded me of the because it's crazy. It's insanity how that works. Remember, I think I told you before. I was listening, my motorbike watching First 48, that show. Yeah. And I'm listening, and they did the warm-up test and asked okay, we're going to put you on a lie detector test, and we're going to ask you a couple of warm-up questions. It was like, is your name Shamika or whatever? She was like, yeah, pass. It said, were you born in Chicago? She said, yeah, pass. Immediately, she just lied. Because I already know you can't be born in Chicago.
Right.
You know,
and you born in Walmart. Born in Walmart.
Exactly. Lying. But doesn't even, because the way the brain works, doesn't even see it. Giving them the power. Giving knowingly or unknowingly. You giving them the power. Because to me, it wasn't even about the lie detector test. It was about getting you in jurisdiction. Were you born in Chicago? Yep. All right. It doesn't matter if you lie or not. Here, we got you under jurisdiction. You're going to say what we want you to say now. because you're giving them the power.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the verbiage. You saying you Indian? You saying you Native American? You saying you black? You saying you just indigenous? Stateless. None of that moves to nationality. None of it. And that's another reason why Noble Drew Ali is the man, because he's the one that nobody else brung us this. They bring us everything else. The diets, the bean pies, the activate this, the pray harder this way, do all of this, do all of that. Nobody told us that we was Moors.
Yep.
Nobody came and told us we was Moors, which was the whole problem. Like, you really don't have to be looking in the sky for some guy to come. The whole thing was you didn't know who you were. And he came back and reminded us, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And people just, like the master teacher said, people just simply walk past that.
Yeah, waiting for Jesus.
Looking for Jesus. Looking for Jesus. Looking for Yahweh.
Looking for Muhammad and looking for all the fakers.
For Muhammad. Yep.
Looking for all the fakers. Right.
Yep. And I gotta look this up now because it's saying too that Noble Drew Ali was the first one to set up any religious organization in North America. So to me, that's before 501c3. Because in order for their organizations to get set up, they gotta have 501c3. If the Prophet was the first one to have one, how could they be 501c3 if he was the first one to have one, to set one up? Like, that's my, 501c3, I gotta look it up though. I don't even think even existed at that time for church organization or religious organizations rather. If Noble Drew Ali is the first guy, they make it seem as if he's the first one in its entirety for a religious organization to be set up in that manner.
Yep. As we carry on, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali received the title Sheikh because he had been prepared to return his lost foundation to the human family of nations and their old religious creed of Islam. Indeed, this Sheikh was destined to be the most phenomenal resurrector in more than 10,000 years. To compare a membership Sheikh to a free national Sheikh is like pitting a sketch drawing of a soapbox car against a road-ready Lamborghini. Both have the name car, but only one can perform on the nation's highways. One has power to perform the intentions of state, and the other does not. Again, these observations are not degrading, but intended to better define Ali's teachings apart from the current Western Masonic influence which has infiltrated the MSTA. Infiltrated.
Oh, that's different. That's different. It didn't say it started off as a Masonic organization.
Right? Yeah, like most people.
It didn't say they stole some Masonic information. It said that it was infiltrated. That's different. That's different.
Yep.
That's different right there. Because people signing up for these organizations now. And that, I don't care what nobody does. I don't, as long as it doesn't infringe on my life, my domicile or whatever. But I do wonder, why would you join something that you already are? The whole Freemasonic stuff is based off of more science. To me, if you just was the more is the Mason. So why are you joining some secret society if you're already the Mason?
Right.
Like, why did you just go join some club to already be, which would naturally just be yourself, which would be the scientist? That was I always, well, since I started looking at it, I'm like, why do they become Moors too? I'm like, why do they become that? And then I started researching, oh, you get a little benefit off of it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Of course. And again, the benefit, just like with the church, is not going to the people.
Not going to the people.
The benefit is going right to those guys. Right to them.
Yeah.
As we carry on. Sharif was given many sacred texts, revealing the creation of all worlds, the history of the angels, and the origin of the human family, the true story of all the prophets, sages, and masterminds, and how to go within a council with them at will. They never die. He was taught of his many other missions to earth as Adam, Solomon, Yeshua, and Muhammad, given the complete enlightenment of Confucius and the ancient Kemetian mystery system of seven, the perfected man. He affixed to memory every word, works, and deeds, most of which he later placed in his Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple. This little book is sometimes called the Circle 7 Quran. Speaking of this greatest little book, Drew Ali later told the Moors, I got here just in time, just before the fire. I had to come like a thief in the night because the Europeans were looking for me with airplanes and with dreadnoughts. When I arrived, they asked me, where are all those books you have? Ali just smiled. But when the time was right, he went to the printer and transcribed every word of the Holy Quran from memory. The printer was amazed.
Eli.
Yep.
Based off the project.
Yep.
That was simple, wasn't it?
Real simple.
Real simple. I'm like, that's the book of Eli.
The book of
I
Eli.
saw that movie.
Yep, I saw that movie. That movie was real life. Noble Drew Ali had returned from the East. And then don't forget,
crazy,
right?
Man.
And then that's why they had the same actor with Drew Ali on the fridge.
Yep.
That's why they had the same actor with Drew Ali on the fridge.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Noble Drew Ali had returned from the East and arrived by ship in the port of New York. It was the spring of 1912. The background colors to the back spine and front cover of this book, Noble Drew Ali, Exhuming of a Nation, are those flaming fires and are designed according to his prophecy. I came here just before the fire. After being questioned by port authorities as to his possession of the inflammable literatures, he started working as a porter on the B&O Railroad. One of Drew Ali's trips in the South is reportedly the wise African porter Dixon in J.A. Rogers' book titled From Superman to Man, still in print at Helga Rogers Publishing Company. J.A. Rogers wrote the first biography of Noble Drew Ali. Okay, and that's right here. From Superman to Man, J.A. Rogers. If you don't got this one, this is a must read. Because again, Book of Eli, Roman J. Israel, From Superman to Man, Montauk Book of the Dead. There's certain people, Spandau Mystery. There's certain people who took Noble Drew Ali and disguised him so that they can get his story out.
Yeah.
J.A. Rogers' book titled From Superman to Man. J.A. Rogers wrote the first biography of Noble Drew Ali. He disguised the wisdom of the Holy Prophet in the form of a highly intelligent Negro porter. In the early years of Drew Ali's return to the States, he had his first meetings in a barbershop and his best friend Dixon would teach when Brother Ali had to work for B&O Railroad. The meetings were later moved upstairs to the second floor, where the Moorish Science Temple got its sacred teachings as the ancient Canaanite temple. It would be in good taste to note here, he left the U.S. as Timothy Drew, a Negro born in the state of North Carolina, returned Noble Drew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, a Moorish American and prophet of his people. This is the true manifest purpose of his birth, being, and holy mission. And what Noble Drew Ali did to break the United States certificate shackles of Timothy Drew, Negro, thus freeing himself to live a clean and pure life and unpremeditated death, all Moorish Americans must do also. During 1912, the prophet took his Western birth name Drew before Woodrow Wilson, the governor of New Jersey, who later became the president of the United States. He showed how Drew was born in the state of North Carolina, meaning under the forced application of the 14th and 15th Amendments, proclaimed his birthright to the nationality of his forefathers, both ancient and those who were here as slaves. By proclaiming his free national name, Moorish American, the prophet became the first of his people to break the judicial slave bonds of NBC, through which the USA has held ex-slaves as hostages under an assumable jurisdiction. Noble Drew Ali, unlike Timothy Drew, is free and was the first of a clean and pure nation of Moorish Americans to present his own constitution of manumission. Neither he nor his people can be lawfully denied. Neither he or his people can be lawfully denied. Again, the point why everybody needs to know about Noble Drew Ali and to take what it is that he had presented, take what it is that he brought, and use it and save yourself, because that was the whole point of him doing that. Lawfully chartered. Yeah, more. Oh, good, more.
No. I was just Islam to the prophet.
Islam.
Can you read again the what are you reading? What book you reading? Who
Oh yeah, this is Elihu Pleasant Bay, Exhuming of a Nation.
Some great literature here.
Elihu Pleasant Bay, Exhuming of a Nation.
Lawful. Keep stressing the fact. Okay,
no, go ahead, more. Spit it.
No, because I like how he keeps stressing nationhood, nationality, nation. I keep hearing it a lot in his literature. Like I keep everything is back to nation, nationality.
No,
like it's nation. You know. No, and I love how he keeps bringing that up.
Now again, it all goes back to the teachings of the master teachers. Years ago, when Elihu Pleasant Bay was going through whatever BS he was going through, because you know every Moorish leader had to deal with the lions then with these Europeans, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he had his issues with the colonists, when he had his issues with the colonists, one of the individuals that he was in contact with for consul was Taj Tariq Bey. So don't misunderstand certain things, right? He's talking nation like that because he was given certain keys by the master teacher. No different than when you look at Buddy today, Ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad used to be an indigenous guy before he was doing the NOI, whatever. And because of Grand Sheik nature, El Bey schooling him, because he was playing be indigenous, but don't worry about nations, just like how these guys are talking today. And he got schooled. He got schooled, and then when he got schooled, he wrote his book, put the Great Seal on it, because remember, Grand Sheik nature is Great Seal, Moorish Science Temple of America. That's not what's being said here, but that's what's being said here. We're letting you know, right? And then again, him calling himself Ali Muhammad and then calling it Volume 1 by Ali, he was jacking Noble Drew Ali's energy when he wrote this book. All these people know what they're doing. All these people know where they got their stuff from, and they're playing around today like they don't know what their foundation is. Why is Aboriginal Indigenous guy?
Whoever wrote this,
huh?
So whoever wrote this, is it pushing the same thing today?
Yeah, this is Ali Muhammad's book.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
How could this book?
This is Ali Muhammad's
written. Book. Wow! How can somebody do something like that? That's crazy.
This is the book
he did a full 360.
Yeah, well, we'll put it out again. This is the book that he says is out of print. You can't get this book anymore because it's out of print and all that stuff.
That's his best book he ever wrote.
Basically.
But because he's pushing the folly now, he can't even promote it.
And then don't forget that he's Ali Muhammad Bey. You got nationality paperwork that says that.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
He's Ali Muhammad Bey. And again, jacking the energy, jacking the Elijah Muhammad energy, and jacking the Noble Drew Ali energy, and then now he's somebody's prophet. Still just being themselves. They want to be something else. They want to be something that they're not.
Yep. I remember Amor out here was getting stuck up with the Ali Muhammad indigenous crap when he was pushing it. And we had crossed paths or whatever. And I had told him, I said, man, Ali Muhammad, he's not good news. And that's only because of you, Grand Sheik. I had just seen your videos of debating Ali Muhammad and him not showing up.
Right.
And the more he was about to proclaim his nationality, but he had to wait for something with the moon and the stars. Something had to be aligned with the moon and the stars, and then he could do his paperwork and all of that. And I'm like, brother, you are more now, this second. You was more when you was
waiting for
like, what are you
moons.
talking about? You gotta wait for some moon to be, like, no. And then I told him about your debate, and I said, yo, watch this. I sent them the debate, and man, you know, the brother proclaimed his nationality, became more studious than me now. You know what I mean? Like on it, going crazy, going hard. You know, going hard. But once he seen that, he was like, oh. I said, yeah. That's not a good guy. Like you think, you know. But he was another one. When I first came into the information, he was someone who I was watching because he was young.
He was going hard. He was going hard.
Yeah,
he was the one that was dropping the Benjamin Banneker info.
Oh yeah, that was one of my favorites.
Actually, that might have been a book too. Come to think about it, I think that was a book too.
That was one of my favorite classes he did or presentations that he did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was one of my favorites. Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah.
He got good work.
But again, it goes back to that thing that, you know, once you start bringing the Moorish paradigm in, you have to bring in Noble Drew Ali. You can't get the honors. Right? Like if you're saying I'm a Moorish or I'm a Indigenous or I'm a whatever, once they start teaching about we are a nation, they got to bring in Noble Drew Ali's name. But the hex is once they bring his name in, now they become nobody. Because Drew Ali's still the man. Drew Ali's still the man. Drew Ali's still the man. Today, he's still the man. Why? Because what he brought for us was for our salvation as a people. Noble Drew Ali didn't come to save himself only. He came for the young and unborn. And that's perpetual. That's not something that was just in his time. If he came for the young and unborn, that means he came for everybody's young and unborn. People who weren't around during Noble Drew Ali's time, he came for. People who were around during Noble Drew Ali's time died with this knowledge. Didn't utter a word. Why? Because of some fake sheik or whatever threatening them. They're going to take them to court if they start talking about Moors outside the temple. Keep that in the temple.
Yeah.
That's where this whole Masonic infiltration of Moor Science Temple comes from and why everybody's confused with this, because all of that is after Noble Drew Ali to present. That you can pay $500 right now and get a charter for the Moor Science Temple of America. You could pay $250 and go through the adept chamber and be an adept tomorrow. It's not what it used to be, but that doesn't mean throw it away. Like we say with all the other nations, when they find some traitors in their nation, they don't say, oh, we don't want to be whatever anymore our nation is. No, they find those traitors, they string them up somewhere, they put them against a wall. And then there's no traitors. And then stuff carries on. Because no nation respects or upholds or defends traitors. They either bury them under their jail, they grave them, or they exile them. That's what happens to traitors. But for some strange reason, we love to have traitors around. Jesse Jackson's still around today. He's a traitor.
Oh, yeah. We honor our traitors.
Right? Al Sharpton's still around today. These people are not supposed to have no syndication and all that stuff. How you have a show on TV? You're a traitor. How?
He's on TV.
How? How are certain people putting out music and stuff like that when they're traitors? They got people assassinated who you loved, and they're still putting out albums and you're buying them? They're still writing literature. They're still in the public eye, going to red carpet, whatever. Nobody's rushing up on these people, beating these people's ass for being traitors. And we get it, it is what it is. All right?
Yeah, William Cooper said it the best.
I got you, Blaylock L. I'm gonna answer that question. After Brother Yusuf. Go ahead, Mark.
William Cooper said an interesting thing. He said, the good people are losing the war. I'm telling you, you're losing. We're losing the war.
Yep.
The traitors are winning. That's what we're facing right now. Like, you know how in the movies they always show at the end the good guy rumbles up and he's winning, and the bad guys are winning.
Yeah.
The bad guys are winning.
Remember,
they're coming in here.
Yeah. Remember, G.I. Joe was the bad guys. Cobra was the good guys.
Right.
G.I. Joe weren't the good guys. You have it so twisted. Yeah. The sellouts, the traitors, the bad guys are the ones winning right now.
Yep. I remember a kung fu movie did the total opposite, where a traitor they showed you the traitor won, right, became the emperor or whatever, the guy who was supposed to be the emperor, the good guy, the traitor, treated him like a traitor. Banned him, said, I don't want y'all to mention his name anymore. If y'all mention his name, we're going to kill you. All of that. Like, he disgraced us. He was treason what he did to his people. The traitor is saying this about the guy who's really the good guy. And I'm like, and the whole time, and then it shows you 60 years later. And I'm like, 60 years later, yep, the city is still in that same situation. Can't mention that guy's name, nothing. This guy's still the emperor. It's been 60 years. The guy's still the emperor. He's 87 years old, everything. So when he died, that's going to, some people are being born, live 50, 60 years old, having children. They're still having that. So they're going to get that out. That's what, and that's the same. When I seen it, I said, oh, that's what they were doing with the prophet. They were, all these organizations that set up to get rid of the prophet. All of them, NOI, whatever, sinners, whatever. The whole thing was to get rid of the prophet.
Get the prophet out the way.
To get the prophet in the back scene. Don't mention his name anymore. Bury his name and talk about boost us up, the traitors. Boost the traitors up. And I'm like, dang, they did this in the movie. We don't even know. I remember I was came at the newspaper at the park. I'm holding it up. Little more biases walking by me looking. Noble Drew Ali got the face like, who that? Who was that?
Yeah.
I had the same face a couple of years before.
Straight up.
The sellouts did a good job.
They did a good job.
The sellouts, they're winning. They're winning. They've been winning since they got the prophet off the scene. Been winning. Now, and it's just crazy because you can see some of the sellouts now because they're getting caught selling out. They trying to make a video like, oh, yeah, we know we're Moors, that the ancient name of America is Al-Maghrib, saying it all. But that's because you're getting exposed now. That's the only reason, because you got, the good guys got their foot on your neck now. They're coming back.
Right.
Now you're trying to, run to the fences, and you run to the fence and you trapped in the corner. You turn around, you're like, well, I really was on your side, guys. Like, no. That's because we chased you all the way into this corner. Now you want to turn around and smile and put your hands up and stuff.
Hey, brother.
Seen that movie.
Brother, how you doing and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Now that we got you in the corner. Now that they're in the corner. Yep. Right. Too late.
I've seen that.
Too late.
I've seen that movie.
It's been sold out. It's been sold out. Can't play around with you people anymore.
Do them like Alice in Wonderland. Off with your head.
Yep.
Off with your head. She just points. Off with your head.
Just too late. Too late. Right. The more in the chat asked the question about is it all the temples? Is it the temples that's messed up? So again, Drew Ali founded. Okay, it's just like saying the brother Wasim told me one time, being that he was in the military, that it's not, guns aren't the problem, people are the problem. Nothing's wrong with guns. Guns just gonna sit there.
Right.
Bullets in it, loaded, cocked, ready to go. It's just gonna sit there. It's that idiot that picks it up that make guns a problem. Right? So just like the temple, nothing's wrong with the temple. Temple is perfect. Everything's set up properly. Everything is how it's supposed to be with the temple. The problem is the individuals who are in it that know how this thing's supposed to run, but then they got it going on like, do their own thing. Like we're saying, sell charters and do whatever else that they're doing that has nothing to do with this. And then the people who are in there that know that this stuff is going on and then let it go on. That's why they had to say, Evil prospers because good men sit back and do nothing.
Yep. And now you complaining.
Now we're complaining about how come stuff is bad and why is this and why is that? Because good people sat back, right? When people saw Jesse Jackson put his hands in Martin Luther King's blood, rub it on his shirt, and then go on the news. People saw that. And then nobody said anything. They just let him go on the news with blood on his shirt, like he was the last person to touch our savior, Martin Luther or whatever like that. But when he was really jacking the energy because he's an occultist. He knew what he was doing. Ain't nothing new. And then years later, he's with Dr. York. Who we know Dr. York must have known who put the hand in the blood and touched the shirt and all that stuff. Why are you parading around with him like he's somebody good for the liberation? Unless you know Dr. York was getting some kickbacks through that agent. Which is why he got his 125 years or whatever, because you can't play both sides. You know. And then again, you know, he saw it coming. That's why he told all these Nuwapians, wear your mask of God. That's why he told all these Nuwapians, where's it at? That's why he told all these Nuwapians, Holy Quran, Circle 7, hardcover, only hardcover book that he has. How come he made somebody else's book a hardcover book? Why? Why would he, of all the people out there that he has on the We Are Family poster, right? This poster right here. Let me just show you.
You don't even want to see.
Right? That poster right there. That poster is Nuwapian poster, right? We are all family. Of all the people on that poster, all the people on there, all those people on there he wrote books. The only book that he remade was Noble Drew Ali's book. Nobody else? What's he telling you? Who's he giving honors to? Who's he giving honors to? So if he can give him that much honors, why can't you give that much honors to the prophet? Right? Almost everyone's compromised. Almost, pretty close to everyone is compromised. And we're just talking leadership. We're not talking about people who are, you know, just out here joining up to stuff and, you know, following the guy who said, yeah, go out there with the mic and the Bible and yell into the microphone and the megaphone and stuff like that. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the leadership. Yeah.
Yep. And that's,
majority of them are compromised. As far as the Grand Bardis in the Moorish Science Temple, all those are compromised. Definitely all those are compromised.
Yep.
That's why we've gotten nowhere as far as the Moorish movement is concerned. Because after Noble Drew Ali transitioned, everybody started following the traders. And then the only legitimate, which was Mealy El, after he transitioned, traders jumped into that. And again, some of those same people under Mealy El's body.
Say that more? Okay, yeah, okay.
Right? Moors under Mealy El's body right now are people who are selling charters and join the Arab chamber and whatever. And again, that has nothing to do with Moorish Science Temple, and forget the temple because those Moors are doing that with the charter of the Moorish Science. No.
Right.
No.
Some Moors started that.
Moors.
The temple didn't.
Get out. The building didn't do anything to anybody. Right? Building never did anything to anybody. It's a building. What did Moorish Science Temple do to somebody? Moorish Science Temple ain't do nothing to nobody. What Holy Quran do to somebody? That's like one of the what was it again? Oh yeah, it was Indigenous guy was asking the question about, well, when the Hebrew was debating the Moor put the Holy Quran on the ground. How could he do that? I wouldn't put the Holy Quran on the ground. Nigga, it's a book. The hell are you talking about? Put the book on the ground, like, and? Like, what do you mean? The hell are you talking about?
You just read where the prophet asked him, where's all those books? Prophet, he didn't come with any books. He had it all in his head.
It's all about your thought processes. Is the book in your head? Then it doesn't matter if the book goes on the ground. The hell do you mean? It's a book. You put the book on the ground. It's not like it's food or something. It's not like guy put his sandwich in a pile of shit,
right?
And then you go to eat it.
Yeah.
It's a book.
Showed you that in the book of Eli. The book was braille. He just threw it. It was pointless to him. What are you gonna do with it now?
Right.
It's pointless. It's pointless to him. What are you gonna do with it? It's pointless. It's just a book. Throw it. Get rid of it. It's just a book. Because it's pointless. You can't read it. It's in braille. But this guy, he didn't even have it. He didn't even have the book. When Denzel got to the place, he didn't even have the book. He told him, get a piece of paper. A lot of it.
Right? Same thing as Juali. Same exact thing. Go get some paper. You want to know what you want? You want the stuff?
You're the book. You're the book. Right? You're the book.
That's just what it is. You know? Because all it takes is common sense. Stuff's done tomorrow. If you just think. It's all it is. Just think. Things done tomorrow. Again, like we said earlier. America is a continent. That can't be a nationality. That's a continent. Since when is Asia a nationality? Asia is not a nationality. South America is not a nationality. How come people don't understand? Oh yeah, I'm South American. They don't say that. They don't talk crazy like that. What's your nationality? Oh, I'm South American. You don't hear nobody talk crazy like that. That's incompetence or lack of common sense. When you lack common sense, that's when you start getting in trouble. Just like we said, as soon as you say, oh yeah, this is the Holy Quran of Moorish Science Temple, this is the Holy Book of the Moors or whatever like that. Oh, sorry, let me just tie my shoelace. You put the book down on the ground, now people are looking at you crazy and condemning you or whatever. Get away from those people.
Saying you're American is like saying you're African.
Immediately.
Africans don't call themselves African.
Right.
They call themselves either after where they come from. What is it, it's over 50 countries in the so-called continent of Africa. Mm-hmm. And they're either going to call themselves Kenyans or Ghanalese. The list goes on. They're not going to call themselves African. They're not.
They're not. They're not. And we know,
they know that here.
We know some. We ask them. And they don't say, I'm African over there. They don't. Right? They don't.
I'm Kenyan African. They don't say that.
I'm Kenyan African. Yeah, right. Right. That's like with brother Negambe. Saw the dude with the plates. It said more on it. Wave him down. He's African. Hey, yeah, I'm African, but I don't really say I'm African because we call ourselves Moors in Africa. What? Since when? That's not what the Afrocentric guys say. The Pan-Africans don't say that. They say that they call themselves African over there. They say they call themselves some country in Africa. No, we don't call ourselves that. We call ourselves Moors over there. Call ourselves Moors in Africa. And then people are, because they're the real Africans, so they can call themselves Moors. And we're descendants of Africans born in America, but we're not Moors. Stop the BS. Stop the BS.
Right. But my thing is, they'll tell you, like, they from the continent of Africa, and there are more, but you'll be like, oh, well, where are you from? They'll be like, oh, I'm from Senegal. But that's not Morocco. How is he a Moor?
Right.
So how come they let that slide? They shouldn't let that slide. It should be on them. You're not from Morocco, but because they go along with the paradigm for that over there, like you just said. Oh, you're from the continent of Africa, so you can be a Moor. No, he's not from Mauritania. He's not from Morocco. So how could he be a Moor? That shouldn't qualify for him. But they don't give him that argument.
Exactly. Right. Why a prophet born in America? To those who know the true story of the human family, can you imagine any people more deserving of a universal mercy than the so-called NBC? The sons and daughters of former slaves have become desensitized to religious fundamentals as first formed in ancient Africa. What they think is religion is not a holistic way of life, and the gods they serve today are not their own. Oddly enough, the NBC expect those whom had enslaved them to tell the truth about their great God and history. Worse yet, they have allowed Western philosophy to dictate and define the meaning of African leaders of divinity, example, prophets, angels, masters, and messengers. The European finite interpretation of these infinite conquerors of self cannot create a spark toward the flame of enlightenment. Basically, this is because Europeans cannot define what they cannot see. By Allah's own design, prophets are always raised from amongst the people they are sent to save. This is so because people are more susceptible to their own blood before accepting the blood of a stranger. Although history also shows that they will reject their prophet until the stranger accepts him before them. It is through his own from which his prophethood will be exalted. It is through his own from which his prophethood will be exalted. Noble Drew Ali was born January 8th, 1886, under the needless 14th Amendment in the state of North Carolina. His birth was necessitated 20 years after the Moorish Americans became a nation of people and 18 years after the U.S. Congress seized them as hostages under the assumable jurisdiction of the United States and courts. Albeit Drew Ali was without question a prophet born unto an existing nation of people. This latter statement of fact is key to all readers because what is being revealed here is this. A, 99% of American citizens and all African Americans have not come to the historical and lawful realization that the 1865 congressional abolishment of slavery also created a new nation of people made from the dust of ex-slaves. And B, all major prophets are born into the nationality of their own existing nation of people. Hence, the timely 1886 birth of Noble Drew Ali in the state of North Carolina. All prophets come speaking in the current language of the people. He elevates that language to a level of purity and divinity and teaches it back to the masses. If fallen humanity is to be uplifted, their language must be changed to a higher degree of consciousness. Their literature must change into liberty's best words and be founded in their literature must change into liberty's best words and be founded in proving the possibilities of man. Through his people, a prophet will reach all men. When, before his coming, all the king's men could not save his people. Only a holy prophet could take such a bastardly language as English and make a people speak it holy. He was born in America because this is where Allah had befallen his people into divine issue called slavery. No great Arabic-speaking Muslim from Saudi or Arabia itself could ever do what our own prophet began to do, uplift us by teaching us to be ourselves. It is in our own language we can now express our social, economic, psychological, and divine thoughts to all nations. The demoralizing and inhumane institution of chattel slavery placed the Moors in needs that far exceed religion. The covenant of the great God is an agreement between he and man, which simply reads, "Honor thy father and thy mother, then thy days will be longer upon the earthland which he hath given them." A creed honors the father, but your nationality connects any nation to that part of the mother, which is most reciprocal to the father. The importance of a people having forefathers and mothers to honor reaches a new level of freedom when anyone considers the fact that the Negro race has been made without either father or mother. This is why so-called NBC people can never be guaranteed a prosperous future, because they are the only persons made in America without paternal roots. For the Moors to be the peak contributors to the new heaven and new earth, they must also be able to identify with the grandiloquent establishments of their ancient forefathers, especially those who had established the ancient mysteries of Islam here in the Americas 60,000 years before the first slave ship sailed. Once again, they, the Moors, Negroes, blacks, colored, indigenous, whatever, must also be able to identify with the grandiloquent establishments of their ancient forefathers, especially those who had established the ancient mysteries of Islam here in America 6,000 years before the first slave ships sailed. No other Muslim would bring this to a prophet-promised nation. It will take a Moorish American to save a Moorish American. Mm. 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 So like we say, Noble Ali's Moorish American, and then we're Moorish American. Go to the Hebrew people. Who's their prophet? What's their nationality? What land they come from? You go to the indigenous people. Who's your prophet? You go to the Kemetic people. Who's your prophet? We go to the Rastafarians. Who's your prophet? We go to the Nation of Islam. Who's your prophet? All these people got foreign prophets. The indigenous people, they don't even have a prophet. They don't even talk about prophet. They never did one video talking about their prophet. The Hebrews prophet, they don't even know if he's real. We have a prophet from our time. We'll read that one again. They'll read that one again. We'll read that one again.
Please.
A creed honors the father, but your nationality connects any nation to that part of the mother which is most reciprocal to the father. The importance of a people having forefathers and mothers to honor reaches a new level of freedom when anyone considers the fact the Negro race was made without either father or mother. This is why so-called NBC people can never be guaranteed a prosperous future, because they are the only persons made in America without paternal roots. For the Moors to be the peak contributors to the new heaven and the new earth, they must also be able to identify with grandiloquent establishments of their ancient forefathers, especially those who had established the ancient mysteries of Islam here in the Americas 6,000 years before the first slave ship sailed. No other Muslim would bring this to a prophet-promised nation. It takes a Moorish American to save the Moorish American nation.
That's true and exact.
Yeah.
And what the crazy thing about it to me is when he says it takes a Moorish American to save a Moorish American.
Mm-hmm.
When people be going around saying we're not Moors, it's just, well, it takes a Moorish American to save a Moorish American. If you saying you're not a Moor, hey, we're here to save Moorish Americans. We're we're here to save Moorish Americans. You can run around and say whatever you want.
Yep.
Go ahead. Well, our thing is to save Moorish Americans. Because, like the prophet said, what do you want me to do? Kill you?
Kill you?
Like, like,
what do you want me to do? Kill you?
All the way to that.
Yep. What do you want me to do? Kill you? What do you want me to do? Kill you?
All this, I mean, there's no other way to see it. You know, we could go over it numerous times. You know, there's people before me. We've just been Moors. I can't believe they say their nationality is American. When you just break it down, like, well, the people, like the Brazilians, they're Brazilian. They got the Argentinians. You know, you got so many. Like, what American are you? You know, if you're gonna go with that diaspora, because we already know that we're all Moors, a Norman Jig.
Yeah.
Like, why do they argue with us? We name all the reference points. They won't argue with them. Send them an email or something and argue with all these PhD scholars that say that we're Moors or refer to us as Moors. Question all the scholars and PhD people who tell you where these brands are coined from. The terms Indigenous, Negro, Black and Colored, African American. Challenge them people.
Exactly.
And then as soon as we start reading definitions of words and stuff, we think we using words to separate us. I mean, like, how could you say that? Like, how could you say that? That's ignorance. We're using words to separate us. We haven't been using words. That's what's been getting us in trouble. We just been talking in slang, in general terms. That's what's been getting us in trouble this whole time. And now, once we start looking up words, more is not a problem. Because we looking up words. We looking up what the word really means. Because I already know anything those colonizers are saying to produce or anything, it's not good. Like, when it comes to the political arena, anything that they're trying to brand the people to join or to be looked at as, it's not good. I already know it's colored. Anything. I don't care what it is. I was looking nowhere from ethnicity to a farmer to whatever. I don't care what it is. Mm-hmm. Anything they trying to brand you to. As soon as you look up those words, you're in their so-called courtroom arguing, you know, whatever rights that you think you should have, but you're calling yourself brands that allude to slavery. Anything that you say after that is going to just be looked at as cardboard. Doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter because you have no say. You have no say. Because we didn't look up anything. We don't look up anything. Anything. I was looking up culture today because they like to say culture. Yeah. Culture. The etymology definition of culture is someone who tills land. It doesn't mean, you know, back then we was like this and we was this and us as a people we used to. Nope, doesn't mean that. It means to till land. You know, or a colony. A colony is a Roman like a Roman city or whatever. It's literally that colony. COLNI. It's Roman. It doesn't even have anything to do with the land or anything. It's Rome. An American, we told you, look it up in the dictionary. When she read it the other day, right back to the United States. Because I was always wondering, what do you mean, let's make America great again? You know, and I'm like, no. Everything y'all say, you know, I already know. I got to look this up again. You know, I look it up and I'm like, okay, this doesn't look, I'm reading it. That says United States. That doesn't qualify as what I am. My ancestors, we recognize the colonies. These, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So how could I be born in that? How can I be born in that?
Straight up.
An American is a nationality. That's insane.
Yep. Yeah, they were talking about come go live with them right now, but we got better info to talk about. And talking with them niggas, we got better stuff to put out here. So again, Drew Ali Day. Second stop. So that was the first stop, Elihu, Pleasant Bay, Exhuming of the Nation. All right. Second stop, African American religions, 1500s to 2000, by Sylvester Johnson. Page 297, Moorish Americans. The Moorish Science Temple of America, founded by Timothy Drew, also began to assert a black ethnic identity during the era of Garveyism. Drew would come to identify himself as Noble Drew Ali, the divinely inspired messenger, a prophet, whose message to the so-called Negroes achieved its salvific efficacy primarily through its revelation that blacks possessed a distinctive nationality. At the heart of this message was the proclamation that these so-called Negroes were in fact Moorish Americans, descended from the ancient Moabites, among whom the biblical character Ruth was celebrated as an ancestor. By adopting the term Moorish, Ali was able to exploit a rich etymological history that had been used by Europeans until the 19th century to denote Muslims who were not necessarily black, and blacks who were not necessarily Muslim, often interchangeably. Ali taught that the Moorish Americans possessed an ancient history and had practiced a distinct ethnic religion, Islam. As a prophet, he presented to these Moorish Americans their own divinely prepared scriptures, the Circle 7 Quran, which related some history of the Moabites and other Canaanite peoples and also described the activities of Jesus in Asiatic lands. Ali proclaimed to his followers that they possessed a distinctive ethnic heritage. He believed that if Black Americans embraced their true Moorish nationality, as he termed it, the US government under which they lived and all other nations would respect them and would regard them as a dignified people with history who merited respect. For this reason, the MSTA emphasized that members must claim a free national name to be recognized as an American citizen. Terms such as colored or Negro were slave names, not free national ones. The response to Ali's message of Moorish redemption was considerable. In Chicago, where Ali first incorporated the MSTA in 1925, the Moorish Americans commanded public respectability until Ali's suspicious death in 1929. Their public celebrations of an ancient Moorish heritage drew large crowds that included local political leaders. Ali established a factory to produce oils, incense, soaps, and other Moorish products, the sales of which buoyed the religious financial base. From New York City to Kansas City, Kansas to Belzoni, Mississippi, MSTA members established temples and vibrant communities of converts with a bold message of ethnic renewal. They urged followers to reject the semiotes of so-called Negro identity and instead to reclaim a heritage that stretched from ancient Palestine to Arabia and the Muslim empires of Eurasia and Africa. Especially important were the concrete elements of the religion that symbolized ethnic difference. Followers received a change in name by adding the suffix Bey or El to denote their Moorish ancestry. They paid nominal membership dues and in exchange received membership cards certifying that their identity was not Negro but Moorish American. The male members wore fezzes to distinct themselves from other Americans. Men and women also donned robes in keeping with the Eastern style of dress. Of estimable importance, furthermore, was the Circle 7 Quran, the MSTA book of scripture that Ali himself published. This, in addition to the instructional literature of the religion, grounded followers in a compelling worldview that identified them not merely as victims of anti-Black racism, but also as a distinct people whose past stretched beyond the destructive episode of American slavery and whose mission was to reclaim their lost heritage. Now, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? Who would not want to tie themselves to their ancient history? Now, if we, as a people, had taken Noble Drew Ali serious, even after his transition, where would the races be right now? Because remember, everybody else around us has a nationality. Everyone around us has some type of religion. Everyone around us has some connection to who it is that they are. Where would we be as a people? Right? Where would we be as a people? It is absolutely amazing to think that at the time of Noble Drew Ali, that he had a manufacturing company creating our products. He had a manufacturing company. What if that manufacturing company expanded, just like we see all these different corporations today talking about celebrating their 100th year and all that, and they got a manufacturing company in every country, in every state, in every jurisdiction or whatever, giving people jobs and all that stuff? Where would we be? Right?
Manufacturing companies, the proper setup.
Manufacturing companies.
Not casinos.
Not casinos.
Not casinos.
Not definitely not casinos.
Manufacturing companies. And we know what type of medicine he was making.
Yep.
And he was and you know, they had their own they had the sewing stuff going. So you know what kind of material you'd have been dealing with.
Yeah.
Was there a candy store? I think it was a candy store?
Yeah,
something like that.
Candy or cookies or something like that. Something.
Yep.
Something.
Yep.
Yep.
And you don't know that was probably vegan.
More than likely.
Just like they do now. Do you think that spelt recipes with cookies is new? They think that's new. Making squash bread, they think that's new. Kale chips and stuff, they think that's new.
All right. Let's see if there's I know. I see the Moors on there. With the exhuming of a nation. Hold on, let me just check this thing right here. AfricanWorldBooks.com. I don't know if the link got put out there. I didn't go up in the chat, but AfricanWorldBooks.com, AfricanWorldBooks.com. African World Books. Phone number 410-383-2006. 410-383-2006. 410-383-2006. Just tell them Brother Cujo sent you. That's for Elihu Pleasant Bay's book, Exhuming of a Nation. Scripture, Cultural Destruction, and Ethnogenesis. Analyzing the relationship between claiming heritage and the problems of existing under a hierarchical racial political order can render a more exacting view of Black ethnic religions. This relationship comes to light in the ways the theologies of the MSTA and the Commandment Keepers deconstruct colonial paradigms of race and history. The intersection of ethnic heritage and anti-colonialism that featured centrally in these religious movements produced deeply consequential formations across 4 domains: cultural destruction, religious particularity, temporalities, and ethnic naming. These themes pose theological problems to which Wentworth Matthew and Druali responded by reconceiving religious identity as ethnogenesis, the source of peoplehood. When they did so, they were promoting an anti-colonial theology that won a decisive following among African Americans. The most consequential epistemic shift affecting the Black ethnic religious was their claim that Christianization and slavery were essentially processes of cultural destruction. With some exceptions, such as Vodun in the Creole South, African American religions of the late 19th century typically embraced the Christian salvation myth and its civilizing mission by celebrating Black Christianization as the theological result of the Middle Passage and American slavery. The Ethiopianism promoted by 19th century activists such as Lot Carey, Lottcary, Anna Julia Cooper, and Henry McNeill Turner described the transatlantic slave trade as an escape from a heathen land, a divinely orchestrated redemptive form, and a divinely orchestrated redemption from African evil. The missionary religion that targeted ex-slaves after the Civil War emphasized that Christianization would achieve racial uplift and redeem converts from African decadence. The 20th century, by contrast, saw the robust expression of this sentiment, most vividly among Black ethnic religions. Within the Moor Science Temple, this claim that Christianity was alien to African Americans was explicitly advanced in Noble Juali's Circle 7 Quran. Ali located the origins of Christianity within the Roman Empire. Christianity, in its theology of history, was the religion of the pale-skinned European Romans who executed the Moabite Asiatic prophet Jesus, whose mission, according to Ali, was to rescue the Jewish nation from rule by the pale-skinned nations of Europe, thereby effecting an explicit salvation from colonialism. Let's put that one out there again. Within the Moor Science Temple, This claim that Christianity was alien to African Americans was explicitly advanced in Noble Drew Ali's Circle 7 Quran. Ali located the origins of Christianity within the Roman Empire. Christianity, in his theology of history, was the religion of the pale-skinned European nations who executed the Moabite Asiatic prophet Jesus, whose mission, according to Ali, was to rescue the Jewish nation from rule by the pale-skinned nations of Europe, thereby effecting an explicit salvation from colonialism. And then we have those same people today, like Jordan Maxwell says, following teachings that came from the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the Hebrews. And then we have the indigenous people claiming that they are Los Indios, but they're not Indians though, but they're going to say that they're Los Indios when we tell them that they're really Los Sindios, which came from the Vatican. So if they're Los Sindios that came from the Vatican, those without God, right? And nowadays, they're those without a prophet, whatever prophet means. They're still Los Indios. And the whole point is for them to be brought back into the constitutional fold. Because you can't claim a slave brand and expect to be respected by the colonists. Because the slave brand was created by them. That's called colonialism. That's why, again, Yahshua came, Moses and all these people, to free the people, because we already know that all the prophets were Asiatic. So if all the prophets were Asiatic, then who did they come to save? They came to save their people from, obviously, the pale-skinned nations who were trying to keep them in perpetual servitude. And what are they doing today? Still playing perpetual servitude with these colonials by not being who they're supposed to be. Because remember, everybody knows who we are except us. We're the only ones that don't know who we are. And because we don't know who we are, that's why we suffer. Right? Exactly. The problem is we started thinking like the colonists. Once you stop thinking like the colonists, you go back to the mind of your ancient foremothers and forefathers automatically. Automatically. There's a lot more.
The literature that you're going in on just has me sitting back studying right now. Because it's just showing them more and more, like, because I even looked up the definition of prophet earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a seer, S-E-E-R,
yep.
or a teacher, a preacher, what's this name? Like basically, someone who knows,
right.
you know, like. And when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, someone who would know, like, the information already. Like, who would know because nobody did, who would know to tell us that all our problems comes from us not having a nationality?
Right.
Like, who is, like, that's a prophet.
Yeah.
That's someone, that's a teacher, that's a seer.
Only a prophet would know that. Yeah, only a prophet would know that.
Because we just couldn't figure it out. We've been marching and praying, picketing, keep hoping and alive in forever. Forever. And we told them, and another thing too, we keep saying this over and over again. The whole reason for platforms going on again with the Aboriginal Indigenous, us, people being here before, all that's coming from Moors pushing this for years now, and now it's getting all over on social media or whatnot, and people taking it, flipping it, and using it for what they want to do to gain what they want to gain. Same thing that they did to the prophet back in the day. They doing the same thing now. They just want to be like you was mentioning earlier with the Ali Muhammad, whatever. It's just they want to take what they want to get from the prophet, use it, make notes off of it, but don't want to acknowledge the prophet, because once they acknowledge the prophet, they can't make a prophet.
Right.
That's what kills them every time. Because now you're a third party. The prophet's the main guy. Now you don't need any priest to be whatever, because you're your own priest. Now you don't need anybody to tell you, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that, because once you got the information, he told you, oh yeah, nobody was doing that, and reminding us of this information. You just regular guy again.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're not the man anymore. You're not the man anymore. Foreignness, language, and ethnic naming. Among the most provocative ritual strategies of Black ethnic religions was renaming converts to signify genealogies that transcended the bounds of Americanness, forging links to pre-American origins and transnational identities to underscore the idea that so-called Negroes possessed an actual heritage. The Moorish Science Temple of America provided converts with suffixes of either Bay or L to be appended to their existing surnames. These were the names of the two Moorish tribes, Ali taught, from whom all Moorish Americans had descended. So, for instance, when Charles Kirkman joined Ali's Moorish movement, he would become the most prominent leader of the MSTA after Ali's death. He changed his name to C. Kirkman Bey. By taking on these tribal names, MSTA converts acknowledged and reclaimed their pre-American ancestry. And again, speaking about, after Noble Drew Ali's death stop happened, C. Kirkman Bey was one of those Moors who took the teachings of Noble Drew Ali and made them somewhat his own. He became the Sultan of the Moors, had the fez with Sultan on it and all that stuff, even though Noble Drew Ali told these Moors, don't mark your fez, which lets you know that he was in supreme violation. Right? He was in supreme violation. All right? Because they know what they're doing is wrong. They knew what they did was wrong. But opposed to dealing with their wrong activities, they just pretended like, they're doing their own thing. So, for example, The Names of God by Lester Sumrall, Sumrall. The Names of God by Lester Sumrall. The Almighty God, page 75, the Almighty God. Genesis 17 tells how God appeared to Abram just after the birth of Ishmael, reminding him that they still had a covenant together. Abraham was 99 years old when this conversation began, but he had turned 100 by the time it ended. So it must have been quite a prayer meeting. Notice what happened. And when Abraham was 99 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, El Shaddai. The name God Almighty, or El Shaddai in the Hebrew, emphasizes God's ability to handle any situation that confronts his people. Dr. W.A. Criswell notes that El Shaddai is a further enrichment of the supreme name Yahweh. El is the singular form of Elohim, and Shaddai is literally sufficient or self-sufficient. Therefore, it is rendered almighty. The almightiness and self-sufficiency of Yahweh are adequate for him to deal victoriously and even destructively with his enemies. Abraham just needed to remember that El Shaddai would take care of him, El Shaddai being the Almighty God. So if their God is El, then no, their God or more, and they're telling me that they're Israelite.
That's why it makes sense when Jordan Maxwell said the Catholic Church just made it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's Canaanite.
That's Canaanite.
That was Canaanite. That's more. That's a more.
Yep. Yep.
That's some more. And it's not, and like you, it sounded like you were saying Abraham, because that's what the original way it was spelled. Abram. Abraham, not Abraham. It was Abraham.
They gotta fix the story to go with their mythos.
Yep.
Right.
But once you know
fix the story
the ram, right? But once you know that the ram is the zodiac for Aries, is the sign for Aries, first sign of the zodiac, then you already know that it's something different that they're talking about. I think Ab means son of, or I forgot what it was.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
Ab is father or something.
Father, father.
Yeah. Ra, and then Ham.
When you break it, then that's up. It's still not some guy. and then, because I was like, well, if Jacob is Abraham's son, and then he became Israel, Jacob, and then, y'all the nation of Israel, well, that's all off of Jacob's name being changed to Israel. Well, all right, and then what was Abraham? Abraham couldn't be Israel because he just changed his son's name to Israel. How could that be? What was Abraham, first of all, and then how could, because he changed his son's name to Israel, how did that become a bloodline of a people?
Right.
Like I don't get that. I just don't get that. But it's so but we already know, once we start asking questions and stuff, first thing they say is read, and because they want you to quote stuff from the Bible, and they be like, read such and such, and it's like, this is the most difficult thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, how come we can't just talk? Like, I'm just trying to talk to you, but you're everything you do is out of that book, which is fine with me. Because if you want to use that book, it's fine. But I want to use my book,
right?
Which is the dictionary.
Yeah.
Which is the dictionary.
Don't tell me I can't use. Yeah. Don't tell me I can't use my book. That came from the white man, but then your book comes from the Vatican, and you're not claiming that's from the white man. Right.
Dictionaries came from the European.
Yeah.
All their greatest schools are built for Moors. Teachers was Moors. Again, get the 3-volume book from S.P. Scott, Moorish Empire in Europe. 3-volume book. It's crazy. Tells you about all the schools in Gaul, what they call France now. You know, all the prestige schools, all of them. Oxford, I don't care what it is. All the prestige schools in the world. The Moors were the ones that built it and were the teachers there. Europeans used to, the magic tricks Moors used to do in Europe were mathematic problems. That was magic to them. Like when we used to do mathematic problems out and write them out and do the math and get the problem and solve the equation, that was magic to these Europeans. That was magic to them when Moors used to do that to them. We was the same way, this all in S.P. Scott's book, the same way people out here so-called trapping or whatever, we was doing that with knowledge. Mm-hmm. We was doing that with the knowledge, selling that to the Europeans, standing on the corner, selling literature, dictionaries, teaching them. Because remember, the Catholic Church, they was banning that. They didn't want these Europeans learning. They wanted them to just follow the church.
Sweet.
Just like y'all doing, following that book. They wanted them Europeans back then following that book. That's why it's like Jordan Maxwell says, that King James book y'all read in 1611, it says authorized version. That means it says authorized. That means this is the book y'all better be reading. This is it. I don't want to see y'all reading no other book, none of that. I authorize y'all to be reading this. Because when you start reading it, you read about Europeans practicing Freemasonry out back then and all of that. Anything pagan, witchcraft, they was killing them. Killing them, if they call them. Because you was practicing more science. All of that witchcraft and all of those low branding names that they try to call back then, that was just more science that they was practicing. And they ain't want to catch no Europeans doing it. But even those in the church were practicing more science. Who were killing the people who got caught doing more science. They were doing more science. Because that was the only thing you could do. Mm-hmm. But now all of a sudden, after all of that, that's the white man's book. How did that happen? How did that happen?
Exactly. The next stop, the Almighty Black Keystone Nation. Natalie Moore and Lance Williams. During this transition, Fort ran into resistance against the new direction from many of the older Stones, who challenged his new course by claiming to be Christians, not Muslims. The older brethren from the Stone days were neither ready to call their God Allah nor to adhere to devout rules. Fort wove in the traditions of the Moorish Science Temple of America too, a religious organization with Islamic leanings mixed with biblical lessons and pro-Black outlook. Thus, few Stones made the transition into what they viewed as a foreign El Ruckin world. The weeding out was fine with Fort. There was no main 21 governing body to consult on decisions, no one with whom he was obliged to share power. In a short time, Stone stalwarts and leaders Eugene Bull and Mikey Cogwell would be phased out. Ford also adopted the new name Malik, which means king in Arabic, to match his new religious persona. Chief Malik was now king of the El Ruckins. Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple. As it is for many black men imprisoned in the United States, Fort's exposure to religion broadened while he served his federal sentence. In late 1974, Hairston and Fort were locked up together at the prison in Joliet, Illinois. They received visits from Christina Price Bay, a national secretary of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Moorish Science Temple teachings were thick in prison, especially from the 1930s to the 1950s. Their draw is similar to the influence the Nation of Islam has over groups of black men in the penitentiary today. National MSTA leaders employed a targeted prison recruitment campaign to bolster their membership, and Harrison and Fort were no doubt a part of those efforts. During those prison visits, Price Bay extolled the teachings of the MSTA founder Noble Drew Ali. She even continued to visit Fort when officials transferred him to federal prison in Kansas to serve his sentence for defrauding the U.S. government. Price Bay taught Jeff and other Stones that black people in America are Asiatics and Moors. MSTA teachings claim that the ancestors of black people were the Canaanites, who descended from Noah's son Ham. They are also descendants of the biblical Moabites. Their more recent ancestors inhabited West Africa, where they established the Moorish Empire and ruled most of Europe and Asia. According to Ali, the blacks of America are therefore actually Moors, and their natural religion is Islam, not Christianity. Ali taught that although Jesus was also a Canaanite, he was merely a prophet. The Romans killed him and then founded Christianity. Ali also preached to his followers that only by means of deliberate distortion of the racial background of Jesus was it possible for white Europeans to claim him as one of their own and establish him as the head of their church. These ideals must have percolated in Fort's head as he served out his sentence. The founder of the MSTA had an intriguing life journey. Noble Drew Ali was born Timothy Drew in 1886 in North Carolina to ex-slaves living among the Cherokee. Legend has it that his mother foretold his greatness, predicting that he would do extraordinary things. However, when he was a boy, his mother died. The young Timothy went to live with an abusive aunt. He would tell a story of how after running away, he joined a group of wandering gypsies. While with the gypsies, he heard a voice tell him, "If you go, I will follow." There are multiple versions of the stories of Drew Ali's travails. One account said that he was a teenager, he became a merchant seaman and traveled to Egypt, where he was supposedly initiated into a secret society and required him to go through a rite of passage. As part of the initiation, he spent some time inside the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Upon successful completion of the ritual, he received the name Noble Drew Ali. At some point, the Circle 7 Quran was revealed to Ali, and he said that he became a prophet. In the early 1900s, Ali had a vision that instructed him to start a religion that would uplift people of African ancestry or Black Americans out of their desolate conditions. He subscribed to the Black nationalist teachings of Marcus Garvey. In response to his vision, Ali founded the Canaanite Temple in Newark, New Jersey. In 1925, the red fez-wearing Ali moved to Chicago, declaring that Black Americans weren't Negroes, coloreds, Ethiopians, or even Black people. Members of the MSTA always talk about the 1682 Black Laws of Virginia, which exempted Moors from slavery. However, they say in 1774, the founding fathers declared only Negroes were subject to slavery. Ali believed that Moors couldn't legally be slaves. His followers said that the slave owner and US President George Washington knew this, and he cut down the red banner of the Moors to hide the fact. This event, they say, is the origin of the legend of the young Washington not telling a lie about cutting down a cherry tree. This confusion over legalities led the Moors to forget their true identity and accept the label of Negro. As a result, they were made slaves. According to MSTA doctrine, if Black people had honored their African ancestors and not converted to Christianity, they would not have been made slaves. Ali founded the Moorish Temple of Science from the Canaanite Temple and legally incorporated as a civic organization under Illinois law. In 1928, Ali changed the name to Moorish Science Temple of America and registered the organization as a religious institution. Simultaneously, Ali's movement, which he proclaimed a Mohammedan religion, gained footing in Detroit, New York, Philadelphia. Ali once said, "The problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. Have lofty conceptions of your duties to your country and fellow man in general, and especially those with whom you deal. This includes honesty and righteousness, as will cause you to put yourself in the other fellow's place. Look for the best in others and give them the best that is in you. Have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. Brighten the hopes of our youth in order that their courage be increased to dare and do wondrous things. Adhere at all times to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice." The primary objective of the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple of America was and is to connect African Americans with a proud heritage, thereby circumventing the stereotypical picture of Africa, its inhabitants, and their Black American descendants as savage and uncivilized. Fort's intellectual and spiritual thirst attracted him to MSDA teachings, and he wanted to spread that knowledge within his built-in flock. But there was a marked difference in how the followers of MSTA proselytized the teachings of the organization and how the new El Ruckans embraced them. The El Ruckans lacked the same fervor. Although they embraced some of the symbolism of MSTA, most didn't demonstrate the passion for the teachings that devoted MSTA followers did, which is why they got Chief Malik out the way and have him serving time in Supermax right now, because he fixed the problem. He fixed the gang problem. Completely fixed the gang problem. And because of that work that he did, they got him out the way. And then now look at what's going on. Islam, more.
Islam. Just want to add on real quick about Prophet Noble Ali. It says, many of the inacts who are severely emotionally attached to one school of thought believe Prophet Noble Ali is a nigger, self-proclaimed prophet and a Mason. Unconscious Moors, and more so the ignorant and blinded ones, never see the full picture unless it's brought to them. Many internet fanatics who use YouTube, MySpace, Facebook, etc. as tools to reach masses resort to slander in order to gain popularity among those ignoramus cadavers seeking some kind of hope and change outside themselves. The Prophet taught us that opinion is fine, but is no proof of truth. Many fail to deal with ones who are in the know, and these ones really believe their no proof opinions are facts. I'll say that again. Many fail to deal with ones who are in the know, and these ones really believe their no proof opinions are facts. In the face of truth, they tend to turn from it and are completely ignore it. Freemasons take an oath to not reveal these secret teachings revealed behind the closed doors of the lodges. The oath of death silences the Masons after he leaves the lodge. Masons are so secret about their rituals, they cannot even wear their fez outside the lodge. In our oral statements of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, booklet statement number 144, he says, quote, I took the cover off all secret organizations. Many see this as meaning he was part of the secret organization and was revealing what was hidden there. Truth be told, Noble Drew Ali was teaching Moors and anyone willing to hear his message that the lodges were in possession of the birthright of the Moors. And this was time for us to reclaim our lost culture. It is taught that master teachers like Ben Banner Kabay taught the European Masons about government and the Egyptian high science before its fall to the foreign invaders. When we look at Masonic names and symbols, we must ask how the Europeans, who are Neanderthals, get a hold of these customs that were not theirs. Where did they get the star, crescent, and scimitar? The crescent and star are Islamic symbols, and Freemasons, like the Shriners, etc., are not Muslims. Why is the head of a womb man with Egyptian headwear on their crest when they were not Egyptian? With an open mind, you can clearly see that these are stolen, confiscated symbols of the Moors who fell in 1492. The salvation among the faithful is Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry. This means peace be with you. In returning the solution, the gracious wishes is alaikum assalam, with you be peace. Does this sound familiar to you? I hear Muslims say this salutation all the time, but Masons aren't Muslims. But Masons aren't Muslims. Much of what the Prophet did seems to resemble Freemasonry, but the fact remains that the Prophet was an Egyptian adept, meaning he mastered more degrees, 720, than any Mason, and would be overqualified for the lodge if he was a Mason. Noble Drew Ali was not a Freemason. For all those who have ever made that claim, notice they never produce a dues card, travel card, ledger, lodge, name, or any other Freemasonic documents with Drew Ali's name on it. It is said that the temple was overrun by Moors and peasants who were Freemasons in disguise. Due to their oath, they were compelled to attempt to a burial of Noble Drew Ali in the Moorish ruin, so as to forever keep Hiram back from rising from his shallow grave. Now, based on the evidence presented herein, who do you think handed down the fez and bestowed the privilege and honor to Freemasons and Shriners wearing it today?
Say that again. Say that again, Mark. Say that again.
Now, based on the evidence presented here, who do you think handed down the fez and bestowed the privilege and honor to the Freemasons and Shriners wearing it today? Without doubt or contradiction, the Moors.
But one more time.
Now, based on the evidence presented herein, who do you think handed down the fez and bestowed the privilege and honor to Freemasons and Shriners wearing it today? Without doubt or contradiction, the Moors. This is coming out of the book, Who Stole the Fez, Moors or Shriners, written by Grand Sheikh Khujra Noel.
Islam.
Good things, Grand Sheikh.
Islam, Mark.
You murdered it in this one, man.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was the second. The third one. That was the third one. And Islam, we are all Moors. The next stop. We are all Moors, Anur Madrid. Islam and identification with Moors was especially clear in the case of the Moor Science Temple of America, established by the enigmatic American Muslim Noble Drew Ali during the epoch of the Great Migration of blacks from the South to the North and Midwest between 1913 and 1930. Noble Drew Ali, born Timothy Drew on January 8, 1886, in North Carolina, died July 20th, 1929, shaped the new Negro ideology into a unique combination of homegrown Islamic doctrine and elements of Freemasonry, particularly from the Shriners, known officially as the ancient Arabic order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. Drew Ali claimed Moroccan ancestry and issued nationality cards with a Moroccan flag. Blacks in his ideology were from Amexem instead of Africa and were part of the galaxy of Asiatic races extending from Asia to Native and Hispanic America. And all these races were Muslim. Of course, Drew Ali's brand of Islam was bound to be attacked by Orthodox and Sunni Muslims, as happened when the Al-Azhar educated Sudanese Sati Majid Muhammad al-Aqeda Suwar al-Dabhab sued Drew Ali in court for defaming Islam and agitating for the issuing of 3 fatwas against him in Egypt and Sudan. The fatwas were issued around 1930 after Drew Ali's death. As Richard Brent Turner explains, echoing Clifton Marsh's observation, naming was crucial for Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali chose to connect his movement to Morocco, connecting it to the first African Muslim slaves in America. Abdul Rahman Ibrahima, the extraordinary Moorish prince from Fouta Jalan, had used a pretended connection to Morocco to gain his freedom. If this strategy for liberation worked in the 19th century, Drew Ali probably reasoned that it might work for Black people in the 20th century. No doubt these Moors were problematic, as in evidence in one Detroit police officer's complaint. Those fellows, he cried out, what a terrible gang. Thieves and cutthroats, wouldn't answer anything, wouldn't sit down when you told them, wouldn't stand up when you told them, pretending they didn't understand you, that they were Moors from Morocco. They never saw Morocco. These Moors never saw anything before they came to Detroit except Florida and Alabama. The European was mad. That European was mad. He was mad. He was mad. What the one tell you again? The one that tell you? Hey, Yusuf?
Say that again?
What did that European tell you again? When they pulled you over about the tired of you Moors or something?
Oh yeah. I'm just tired of you Moors. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good reason. That's a good reason. Like, because I killed them, it was everything with the law, everything. He was just like, you know what? I'm just tired of you Moors. So I was like, all right, yeah, that's a good reason to go to jail. Let's just go. Let's just go to jail.
Let's go.
Let's just go to jail. There's no other reason. You're just gonna say it. You're gonna kidnap me. Just say that. I'm just tired of you Moors.
Let's put it out there.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's put it out there. All right. Drew Ali and his followers persevered, and survived. So convincing were they of their Moroccan heritage, and so persistent were they in getting such recognition, that in 1986, the Moroccan ambassador to the United States acknowledged the movement's special relationship with Morocco. All right, and then we'll just put that out there. Speech of His Excellency Mati Jorio, Ambassador of Morocco, at the Moorish Centennial Celebration honoring Noble Drew Ali, January 11th, 1986. It is a privilege for me and for the other staff members of the Embassy of Morocco to attend this, the Noble Drew Ali Centennial Tribute Dinner. Please let me take this opportunity to express to you our collective appreciation for your kind invitation and my personal appreciation for having been chosen to receive the Ambassador of the Faith Award. I am greatly honored. It is also a pleasure for us to be in company of such distinguished guests as those here tonight, and to be taking part in such a joyous celebration. We are happy to bring you all greetings from His Majesty King Hassan II and the people of Morocco. This is also for the clown, L, whoever, that left some comment on our last video talking about we're not the Moors and they're the Moors and Morocco doesn't recognize the Moors and Morocco doesn't respect the Moors and whatever. How about you guys go debate Mati Jorio if you really think, you know, they don't recognize, they don't accept, they don't appreciate, they don't give honors to the Moors in America for claiming that we're Moors instead of being niggers like you people. By now, I've been made well aware of your devotion to strengthening the ties linking the Moorish American community to Morocco. Morocco, for its part, welcomes your interests and your work for a better understanding between us. I would like you to know that your efforts have not gone unnoticed. Your initiative is to be both respected and encouraged. As to us, we in turn have every intention of doing all possible to make our relationship a vibrant and special one. But for that goal to be met, we must also look to the future. We cannot limit ourselves to considering just the historical aspects of our relationship, thereby believing that good relations between us are a matter of fate. Rather, we should understand our cooperation to be a living entity and able to grow and open the future. It is here that we can begin to recognize the importance of our children's role. Whatever advances we make, it is our children who will have to follow through. We are pleased and proud to have the Moorish community as one of our bridges between Morocco and the United States as a new voice in the network of our long-standing relationship. Thank you. Courtesy of the embassy of the Ambassador of Morocco. I think that's a good closing point. That's a good closing point. Is there more?
Yeah.
Right. It's a fact. It's a fact that we are Moors. It's a fact. Nothing to debate, nothing to argue, nothing to deny. If we're dark-skinned, if we were once considered Negroes, if we live in America, more than likely, we're Moors. 9 times out of 10, we're Moors. Islam Moor, you got any closeout? Let me see if there's any questions on the email.
Was there any questions? While you looking, I can read these 3 little sentences real quick.
Yeah, Moore, go ahead, yo. We're good.
This is coming out of the book, The Gateway to Atlantis, from Andrew Collins, page 191. The Knights Templar, since they always say Moors stole their stuff from the Europeans. Here we go. Among those who recognized the importance of Moorish centers of learning were members of the clandestine military orders such as the Knights Templar. According to the stories, they had frequently trafficked with the Saracens during the Crusades in the Holy Land, the Order of the Knights of Christ, and the Temple of Solomon, as they were more correctly titled, was founded in 1128 to protect pilgrim routes in and out of the Holy Land. It says, many Europeans clearly recognized the wisdom to be gained from the secret teachings of Islamic mysticism and philosophy, which thrived in Moorish centers of learning, such as Cordoba and Toledo. New knowledge, which included algebra, astronomy, cartography, geography, geometry, mathematics, navigation, classical philosophy, was accessible to those willing to put aside racial and religious intolerance. There is no question that the Moors introduced many of these key sciences to the medieval world. Again, there is no question that the Moors introduced many of the key sciences to the medieval world. Islamic cities also became the focus of alchemists, occultists, mystics, and free thinkers who descended on Spain in the hope of gaining ultimate enlightenment, not only from the established schools of learning, but also from the backstreet opportunists who, at the right price, would reveal their own brand of the forbidden sciences. Look at that. Look at that. Said, look. Moors trapping and look. It said enlightenment not only from the established schools of learning. So not only did you get the enlightenment from the established schools of learning, but also from backstreet opportunists who, at the right price, will reveal their own brand of the forbidden sciences. Europeans are getting all their knowledge from the Moors. Knights Templars, Shriners, all of that. Shriners is modern. The Knights Templars in 1128 and all of that, when they were doing their little Christian crusades and all of that stuff, yep, they were learning from Moors. They was learning from Moors. Learning from backstreet opportunists for the right price.
Facts. Happy holy day to all the Moors. Will that you got something today worth your time. Don't forget khalifamedia.com. You can go get all GS books, including the one Brother Yusuf read today. Who Stole the Fez? Moors or Shriners. Also, all the music, willofalah.com. And of course, don't forget the online university, rvbaypublications.com. And don't forget, if you got a phone, make sure you download the Moorish Directory app so you can, get your little studying going on while you're just home, chilling.
Yep.
Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide.
Wow.
If it gets crazy, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Just recognize what the Prophet brought, go within and study yourself. If they burn all the books, go within, study yourself. If you see a comet crossing across the sky about to hit the planet, go within. Don't worry about what's going on the outside. Take some time for self. Take some time for self and recognize that we were given a truth and a divine truth. And the time of truth is right now. If you want it, it's there for the taking. If you don't want it, then, the niggerdom continues. Islam to all the Moors. Happy holy day once again. Islam, Brother Yusuf, give thanks again.
Islam. Thanks, Grand Sheep.
Peace and love to all the Moors. We'll close you out with a little song.
Thanks to the Prophet.
Give thanks to the Prophet.
We rhyme making no sense to make dollars and holler. On our grounds, rounds leave Moors dead in parlors. So-called blacks call them cracker, then get called Canadian, and shun Moors that say they're not Canadian. This world is full of crazy men with no knowledge of self, but got the most expensive cars and flat screens on the wall shelf. Going on our way to try to help you change what you won't. And I hardly hear your opinion of Marcus Garvey, but Steve Harvey stands out, true, cool, and jester, making a fool of you and himself for wealth. To me, those sellouts need to get bodied or exiled to Dr. Moreau's island with Gentiles and reptiles. Fake slave ships stacking bodies and piles, giving fake Jews slave respect, not giving me smiles, calling children kids. Chasing after Taji guys, supremacy, use albino and half-breed spies. We catch trespassers with razors and mesh, pedophile torture, scotch bonnet in open flesh. Traitors get the shitty end of the stick. Our leaders murderers should have been crushed with pyramid bricks. Huey Newton and Hampton killers should be in front of a squad shooting by any means necessary. Get out the beast belly. Why y'all get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. Why y'all get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. It's all about balance, not the beam. Sellouts made it mainstream. Underground is almost unseen. Gay A&R signed the rappers' contracts in blood. Took his soul, body didn't fall with a thud. He's a zombie, dyed hair, dressed wearing thug. Burn that garbage, too much to sweep under the rug. Police can't collar a crime without snitches. You're lucky to escape the custody, not dead with just stitches. Make you hit your hair, take Hindus to Ganesha possess ya, and raising your pressure. Anything to do with Moors, they don't want you near. Don't search where it's black, you won't find it there. No matter how much you beg, they won't tell you where. No matter how much you don't have, they won't tell you here. Negroes weren't the first slaves, no reparations first. While you wait for your reparations, it looks like a hearse. They won't pay you reparations anyway, only if you agree to make yourself black and gay. Instead of towards Moors, they want you to stray. Won't find your mind when it's in disarray. Thinking being European is the only way. Hurling insults at your creator, she will get you later. Why y'all get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. Why y'all get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. What's the reason for the treason is the question and the lesson. I hear most professing, but really possessing. Taking minds messing with thought patterns and pathways. Nero wanna be a hero when they really cipher, not Neo, not Morpheus or Gillen finding Nemo. Selling out with no remorse, you and yours. Calling you black, showing you who's the boss. Always marching, but never thought sue the police force or do like Haitians. Add some voodoo, of course. You might hurt them unexpected. It could be bloody. Feel yourselves curl and your hair stand from walking duppies. Looked, all of a sudden, judge yelled and wept. In court, judge with cold sweats and throat strap. You can't talk yet, cause the candle was lit before I left. Forget Africa, hip hop was the grand theft. Why y'all get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you into F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory. Why y'all get mad glory and your flows mad corny? Your skin tight jeans put you in F category. Most rappers' names on lists for rhyme pad or lorry, making me comments mad derogatory.